This is In the Middle with Josh and Sarah Siders. We get it. You're probably going through something that's asking you to dig deep, think differently, and hold on against the odds.
So these are our thoughts about starting new things, shutting some things down, and being with you right there in the middle.
Welcome back to the In the Middle podcast, the podcast for those of us who haven't arrived yet. I'm Sarah.
I'm Josh. It's so good to have you with us, watching, listening, wherever you are.
Yes.
Hope you're doing well.
Yes.
We're doing well. Episode 21.
Yeah. We've crossed a threshold.
I think so. Yeah.
Podcast can drink. Official adulthood.
Cheers.
Yeah.
I think this is just coffee and mine.
There's no Baileys in here, but there should be.
Not too fun.
Because, we'll try to work that in later.
We're still going to have fun.
Yeah, but that's really exciting. So we have just like a couple tiny things to mix it up.
Yeah, a couple new things. We have a new, like a sponsor.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What?
So this is the Overhead Light Sensitivity Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real thing. Look it up.
The
Overhead Light Sensitivity Foundation, raising awareness about the horrors of harsh LED lighting.
See, I just thought that was my personal job.
No, that's a middle-aged thing.
Yeah, it's like there's a whole crew of these people.
There's dozens
apparently
of us.
There's dozens. there's apparently a meeting, and you can donate money.
Yeah, but you better not turn on the overhead lights.
No.
Yeah.
Or if you're our house, you just don't install them at all.
Don't. That's okay.
Forcing indirect lighting.
Smart outlets and,
yes.
switches that hook into outlets.
Yes. So thank you. A big thank you to the, what's the name?
The Overhead Light Foundation.
Overhead Light Sensitivity
Foundation.
Specifically.
Yes, that's the important thing.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Yes.
I've been complaining about this for a long time, but again, I just thought it was a personal agenda.
It's
I'm
definitely
not
personal,
alone.
but there were restaurants you refused to eat at because of the overhead lighting.
Yeah.
Because
I
of the what do you call it?
Oh, prison lighting?
Prison lighting. Prison hospital lighting, I think, works
clinical,
too.
Sharp clinical lighting.
Just all of that. And so, there are places I have to go eat on my own.
Yep. That's
or
fine.
Get it for
if you
DoorDash,
if you want to go, have
just
some
wear
kind
sunglasses like we're famous or something.
Oh my gosh. I don't know, that doesn't work for me.
We know.
I don't
been evident
want to feel like I'm being interrogated while I'm eating
How's the food?
A pork
Would
sandwich.
You just let me,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I want interrogation-free dining. So
That's
anyways,
who doesn't?
Thank you to the Overhead Light Sensitivity Foundation for recognizing that so many of us have been suffering since the invention of LED lighting.
Yeah. And thanks for sponsoring the episode.
And yes. And also thanks for sponsoring our incandescent light bulbs. That is part of this, right? Do we get
are we going there? Getting political? Uh-oh.
Is that political? Gosh,
I mean, wasn't it? Didn't
political?
the government say no more incandescents? They put a...
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know if they put a tariff on them or anything. But
anyway. know that the new administration brought them back. They're like,
right.
And we're bringing back incandescents.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, we can agree on some things.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Well, asterisk satire on that, just in case anyone's confused.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Okay. People should know us by now.
I know.
They should know by the smirks.
Yeah, I know. We did. I think that sponsor would have been disappointed. Our advertising. Anyways, all right. Well, we've got an interesting topic today.
Yeah.
Which
this is interesting. This is something I think it's made the rounds on social media a couple years ago, but then it kind of popped up again recently. This is what we're talking about today is this epidemic of loneliness, but really couched in the understanding that as people get older in America, their time spent alone increases drastically. And so we just wanted to talk about that a little bit because as we get into it, we'll really see kind of the hinge point happens in middle age.
Yeah.
Like that choice of continuing on and spending time alone or really finding relationships, friendships, family to continue to connect to. So this comes from, this research comes from an organization, I'm trying to find the name of it, we have a graph. I'll drop it in the comments. Or our world in data, or data, however you pronounce that. But basically, the idea is that when you're young, the time spent with people obviously is really high. You're with your family all the time. You're at school, maybe elementary school, high school, that sort of thing. You're with people like all the time.
And you take it for granted.
You take it for
just
granted.
Like, of course I am.
Of course, this is how life is,
Yes,
right?
yes.
I'm surrounded by family. I play with my friends in the neighborhood. I go to school. Summers are full of, pool, sports activities, camp, whatnot. You're around people all the time. So you're getting a lot of your relational buckets like filled up.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, I think, as time goes on, how much that diminishes. Like even a good foundation set with, healthy relationships, good relationships, how that doesn't necessarily continue on 60s, 70s, 80s, and so on. So yeah, when you're young, they connect it to you're spending 300 minutes or so a day with your family.
How many minutes are in a day?
I don't know. You want to do the math real quick?
300. Yeah. We're going to do the math so you can know.
Times 60,
so
whatever that is.
It's 24 times 60 is how many minutes are in
But
a
I'll
day.
continue on.
Okay, so that's like a third of your day with people. That's interesting.
Third of your day with people, but with just those people, right?
Okay,
so like
1,400.
You get a job when you're 15, 16, whatever. Time with coworkers like goes up, especially as you enter in the workforce. That's 100 minutes, 200 minutes a day. 200 minutes would be in your 20s.
Okay.
Spent with friends. That's really high actually when you're young. 100 minutes, 150 minutes a day. Then it actually starts to go down significantly, really, in middle age. Yeah. So you see these big peaks on these data points, and then it starts to really go down. 40s, 50s, especially.
Wow,
and then time alone really juts up.
It's kind of like all-time lows by the time you're in your mid-50s.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Time with family, time with friends. It's like your spouse if you're married.
Yeah.
And then that even starts to decline.
So, and then you've got like time spent alone kind of there when really
You get some of it.
When you're about 50.
Yeah.
And
or
then
some of it
beyond.
in younger age, but then 50, it really goes up.
Yeah. Okay. So
isn't that interesting?
What's the time span on this? Like, how long did they do this for? Because I'm curious if there's a sense
2009 to 2019.
2009. Okay.
So this is pre-pandemic.
Right.
Even.
It's pre-pandemic, and the smartphone was brand new. So
yeah.
I mean,
that's
but you
part
know,
of it.
but
Yeah.
like it also was a 10-year period where the smartphone's being introduced.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, even like people who are older weren't necessarily as technologically savvy where they're spending time alone to be on a device or whatever. But yeah, I think that's very interesting, and I would be curious like how it compares with earlier generations, because I'm thinking about all of those different community organizations that people were part of.
Yeah.
Maybe churches or like a Rotary Club or something like that.
Yeah. So you're thinking about how people used to spend time together in previous generations?
Yeah, I'm thinking about
now,
the comparisons
and how that's contributed to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big. I think you're hitting on two big things.
Yeah.
Is that generations earlier, Robert Putnam acknowledged this in his book Bowling Alone. People were a part of various organizations.
Yeah.
Kiwanis and the VFW and, like you said, church and neighborhood groups and things like that. Heck, the PTA, at school. Just people were involved a lot more. And that started to go down in the 70s, I believe, 80s even. So obviously pre-internet, pre-digital age, people were just, the social bonds were fraying. And then, as you said, introduction of the smartphone, 2007, the iPhone came out. And the age of the social media took off in 2010-ish, 2014 was a big, the anxious generation is identified 2014 as really a hinge point for our culture. Like a lot of people being on social media.
Right.
Things like that.
2014. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things I think contributing to this where we're just in this it's a new frontier of navigating the frayed social bonds and digital technology, social media that's keeping people connected, sort of, but scrolling alone.
It feels like the screen between you and someone else, whether you're in the same room with them or you're like across, connecting with someone through a screen.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel as authentic, right? Like
as we're
here
on a screen or
I know,
through a podcast. So anyway,
I know.
But yeah,
I
we
know.
have to acknowledge
podcasts feel like radio to me.
They do,
it has
they
a
do.
really strong analog quality that takes me back, and I feel comfortable with that. But
yeah, the connection is different.
The connection is different, and so I think like with our podcast being about navigating midlife, like into sagehood, right? Sagedom, whatever we're calling that, like not just getting older but getting wiser. It's like, what does this tell us about what happens automatically, like the defaults? Are there some defaults that we have culturally within these, like, just the natural pattern of relationships? I mean, I don't know, there's so many things. One thing that comes to mind from this data is like, no wonder we feel such an affinity for youth, because youth is where there's so many social connections.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And it's like, here we are making this case that you can be wiser, you can be, you have a lot to offer, you have, this crystallized intelligence that you can pull from, and you're establishing legacy, you're giving back. But if you're not around people, who are you giving to?
Who are you giving it to?
Like, so the purpose of your second half of life is not happening. It's not, you're not living it out.
Right.
If you're spending, the majority of your time alone.
Right.
Isn't that one takeaway?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like you're diminishing your influence, your impact.
Yeah.
On what, like you said, moving into that season of life where you should be stepping into mentorship, giving yourself away to others, and being alone so much. Like, just who are you giving yourself away to?
Yeah.
It's more consumption. It's more consumerism. Like taking what others have created, rather than giving parts of ourselves away.
So is that the assumption that, like, I mean, is that like a fact? I think that would be a potential theory, that people are alone and consuming instead of with others and giving. But is that actually what it is? I mean, are there some other theories? Because I don't know. Like, part of me is like, yeah, we're responsible to mentor and give back, but like, what are some of the dynamics here? Why are people by themselves?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you have thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think it's the easy path, right? Relationships are hard.
Yeah.
We live in this partisan age where people are being sorted politically.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's an exhausted majority. There's an exhausted middle that don't feel like they belong anywhere, left or right. And the fringe groups on the left and the right drive a lot of the political conversation.
Yeah.
And are the loudest.
Yeah.
They're the most active on social media, and so it's hard to not feel like you're in the middle, maybe politically, or more center, less fringy, but you can't help but feel like you're in the stands watching these gladiatorial political games. Like, people just go after each other.
So it feels like dangerous to be in a relationship?
Well, it feels dangerous because when you say the wrong thing, we have our culture has insisted that you be flayed for it, that you be canceled for it. So it's like, who can I ask questions? Who can I disagree with? Who can I talk to? And again, it's not that many of us choose this as an identity. It's been thrust upon us because it's how our culture is sorting us. Like, I've got to be around people that agree with me about all these things, right?
Yep.
And so it leaves us lonelier and more exhausted and just kind of like walled up, I think.
Yeah.
So that's what I think. I think that's one big thing. Is, so like, I don't know. Well, two things I'll say. Like, I don't know who to connect with because it feels unsafe.
Yeah.
To just have a differing opinion on stuff.
Yeah, true. It does.
Secondarily, And this affects more younger generations, but I still think it has an influence on us in middle age. We've lost our ability to actually connect with others, right? Like Gen Z is not doing great as far as interpersonal connection.
Yeah.
And I think even though we can have a strong base in middle age of like, I grew up with siblings and people around me and involved in clubs and activities, you can forget kind of how to put yourself out there, not just in the dating scene, but just in the like chit chat in line with people. Right. Just connecting with a barista and saying, hey, how's your day? It's easier to be on the screen. You kind of forget that the art of small talk, things like that. So I think those are two things, like why we're lonely.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm thinking about the infrastructure that was like there inherent in culture for mentorship, like that you would move up through a community, like if you're part of a Rotary or you're part of some kind of community group or a church or a synagogue or something, right? Like you move through that community over time, and there's this sense of like you're part of the institutional memory, and you are, even like the culture sees you as having something to offer because there's this kind of like a long-term commitment to something over time, like a city, an organization,
the well-being of the group. In other words.
Yeah. And so you're like pulled up into that, like that people see you as the person who knows something. If you're with, a job for a long time, I mean, even that has changed where we used to be, working for a company for 40 years.
Right.
And there's a seniority and, you kind of develop leadership through that, and you're inherently a mentor, hopefully. Well, we don't have, people are bouncing around to different positions. Right. We don't have connections to religion in the same way. Right. Community groups are, populated by people who are older and have that sense of community responsibility, but there's not as many young people who understand like what those were formulated for. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, if I want to be a mentor, if I'm like 55 and I'm like, yeah, my kids are, older and I do have more time and I'm still working, but I could do more. It's like, where do I do it? Like, what is the ladder, that I climb to do this? How do I just show up somewhere and say, I'm a mentor now? You know what I mean? Like,
it takes that involvement over time.
Yeah. If you don't have that process or that organization that like helps develop you, where there's like an end result, then you have to like self-identify as a mentor, and then you have to go find. I think that's a lot of work. Yeah. I think that's hard for people. So I think that yes, there's probably some defaulting and some consumerism and some kind of like maybe a sense of complacency or other things that are like on somebody's, like it's like on the person to go and resolve that. But I think it's also like when you think about what it takes to be recognized as a mentor, or the courage and confidence it takes to go out there and go, hey, does anyone see me as a mentor? Like, because a lot of people, I don't know about men as much, I hear a lot of women say, once you hit midlife at some point, people treat you as you're invisible. So to show up somewhere and be like, I need to be seen, and I need to be seen as valuable. I need to be seen as having wisdom. Like, what do we do about the missing infrastructure in society? Like, we're part of a church. Right. So we do have people of different ages, and we can be like, hey, I value and appreciate the wisdom that you have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if we weren't part of that, like, where would we go?
Right.
Where would we, people find us and say, can we get coffee? And they want to like talk to us. But most of that has been within the infrastructure of the church, or, maybe in the community when we've led at different things, people want to meet with us. But if you don't have that, then what do you do? And maybe that's a little rhetorical, but it's like, it kind of makes me realize that some of those community groups are vital for helping people develop into mentors, into sages, and without them, that's missing. And somebody has to do so much more work to like investigate, like, do we want to go work in education or what social services,
Right,
like what do I have a
right.
passion for? And it becomes this like personal research project.
Mm-hmm.
And so are we going to ask everybody to do that? Like what's the, there's the community foundation here locally, but yeah, I don't know. It just feels like, I don't know, I'm having kind of a moment of realizing, wow, that's a big loss. That's a gap.
Yeah. The more I think about this, the more I look at the data and just think about where the stats say that we're going to end up. I think it's really important that we all ask ourselves that question about where do I want to be when I'm 80, when I'm 90?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the stats say that we're going to be alone and by ourselves. And obviously we're not saying that, alone time is bad.
Right.
Like we all need that. We need
true.
rest and recharge and solitude. But the overwhelming portion of our day, if not all of it, by the time we're 80, if we follow the average American pathway, is that we are alone with little to no support system by ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to ask ourselves, do I want that for myself?
Yeah.
And then is that what I want for my kids? Because they will do what they see me doing, right?
Goodness.
And so I think it has to do with unlearning some things that we've learned over the last 20 years of our life, like going back and maybe going back to college. Like we often think that college were the glory days, and it's because you were an adult living in close proximity with other people.
Yeah.
Why was that so great? Is because you were forming and reforming your thoughts.
Yeah.
In a tight-knit group a lot of times.
Yeah.
And you were probably broke like everybody else, but you had people to rely on. You had a support system.
Yeah.
You had friends to go to the gym with or go out with or live with, that sort of thing. And so going back to those, not in like, those were the good old days. I need to do everything I did when I was 20.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily, but there were some common components about like why we look so fondly on that, and maybe recovering and reclaiming some of that, life, or like lifestyle.
Yeah.
However, it can be done. So anyway, back to my point. I think we need to ask ourselves, if I want to be different than the normal person that ends up alone and by themselves at 80, what are those things that I need to do now to break up with that cycle and to live differently? So do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah. It's such a sobering thing to think that like if you just follow the path by the default, right? That the infrastructure, that culture is just going to pull you into this.
Right.
And so it's like, what are those things? I mean, something that comes to mind is just caring for yourself. Like part of the reason that people are in their homes is that they are not able to leave.
Yeah, that's true.
When somebody is coming to their home, they are caring for them. Maybe they're bringing them a meal, or it's like, home care. And so somebody who, isn't able to go out, their social life is very limited.
Yeah.
We can't, always predict all of the health factors, but so many things that we can do. And this has been something that I've been more aware of, as I've been in midlife, feeling the limitations of my body, feeling how nutrition is different, movement is different, sleep. And it's like, oh, if I am not preventative now, then I'm going to be limited. Like I'm going to, have limitations around mobility. Yeah. Somebody might have to push me in a wheelchair. Only certain people can fit that in their car.
Right.
And so socially, I'm just significantly more limited if I don't have strength, if I don't have good grip, if I don't have mobility. Yeah. And so those things, I think what's interesting is that even like self-care can be, a communal thing, right? Yeah. Like, oh, I need to go for a walk. I can invite a friend.
Right.
I can have my ladies walking group. I go to the gym and I can meet somebody, or I go to a workout class.
So
there's a
absolutely.
communal element to caring for myself. That has a preventative aspect to it. But it also has a community aspect to it. And you see, like, I remember being in college, and the class after mine that was in the pool was these elderly women that were like sort of jumping around, and I was like, is that a workout? But they were all there and they were having fun.
So good. Though.
And it's like they all got in the water, right? Like that. I mean, they had the mobility to do that. They met up together. They were probably in their 70s or 80s. Yeah. And so it's like just that having something to look forward to.
Yes.
The movement piece, the community piece. I remember being in yoga sessions and seeing some of these women in their 70s, doing L shapes, standing on their head, incredible balance. And it's like they were preventative, but they were preventative in community. And I think that's like a really interesting thing that a lot of us who are in our 40s and 50s are being gripped by, like, oh, your body isn't just going to be strong forever. So to be able to be social requires your body to work within your ability to make that happen.
I think that's so good, because it's like sitting here, I want to think of something more profound than like get involved somewhere. But really, a lot of times it just comes down to that. Yeah. It's like, go to a class.
Yeah.
Audit a college class. Show up to an activity with a group. Like, be a part of something that when you're not there, they miss you and want to check up on you. Right?
Yeah.
Like, go to happy hour with your coworkers. Yeah. Like, do those extra things, because I think as you age and as you slow down, if you don't push against that, that's where life is going to take you, continuing to slow down. Yeah. So it's not like overwork and over busy your schedule with lots of different activities, but it's like, go deep somewhere.
Yeah.
Have be one of the old guys at McDonald's, like, that's figuring out the problems of the world over coffee at 8 a.m.
I love that.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, be somewhere with other people, if not just to be present with them. I think that's so important. And then I would also say, like, there are opportunities to get involved to serve people older than us who find themselves in situations where maybe they're living with some regret about, I wish I would have done some things differently to not end up here. Well, I think it's incumbent on us to actually get involved and show our kids how we want to be treated when we're older.
Wow.
Even if we make some bad decisions, or like we're a little bit lonelier than we really meant to, like, modeling for our kids and our families, like, we take care of other people. That's what we do. And not just sitting around waiting for people to come to us. And if we end up being like that.
Yeah. That's really good. Taking action now. I think that, I'm talking about kind of prevention, being active, taking care of your body. You're talking about kind of taking initiative forward.
Yes. Yeah.
Like thinking, modeling care for people who are older, not judging them.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's,
why are you
here?
I
think it's just so good to think about where you want to be.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah.
And work backwards from that. Because the reality is, if we're in midlife, we still have a whole second life.
Yes.
To figure this out. But we can start today. We can start with the habits and practices that we put in. So, as pastors, we would recommend a community of faith.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be ours, but you're certainly welcome anytime. Like, being a part of a group of people where it's like, it's inconvenient to come on Sunday mornings. It's inconvenient to come to a small group on a Wednesday night. It's inconvenient to have someone that you don't know super well go, hey, you want to get lunch? Like, you want to get lunch after church? You want to go for coffee? Yeah. But it's those small things that add up to a whole life of, you're choosing in those moments. Do I want to be by myself?
Yeah.
Scrolling or binging a show? Or do I want to put myself out there and be a part of a community of people that is messy, is complicated, that votes differently, that thinks differently, that doesn't dress like you? But that's so important for us. And it's important for a whole host of reasons, like, mobility. And like you said, like, the gym is not just going to the gym and doing a class. It's the social aspect. It's the mobility aspect. It's if I fell in my older age, would I have someone notice that I didn't show up? Would someone call?
Oh my goodness.
And check on me? Yeah. It's a whole host of like those sorts of things.
Yeah. The secondary and tertiary benefits.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm even thinking about the idea of how a lot of times in midlife we identify ourselves maybe as somebody who can give back, but part of that is like these passions that we've always thought, oh, that would be fun. That'd be really cool to do. I see people who are, retired and they're, a docent with the Kanza, or they're volunteering at the, museum.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would love to do that.
Absolutely.
Right? Like there's the creative side where your time is a little bit more available, and you're giving to a community passion that you care about.
Right.
So it's like, it's not just, I don't know. I mean, we talk about it as, you know, you said inconvenient. And I think we've come to perceive it that way. And that feels like part of the tragedy, right? Like, why are we alone? Because we thought, you know, 20, 30 years prior that these things were inconvenient, when previous generations just thought of them as like, this is your life.
This is your life. This is how this is what we do.
Do these things. You just, you know, take care of people. They take care of you. You're part of these groups. Yeah. And it wasn't like, I think for me, I want to be sure that I'm checking my own perception, right? Yeah. Like, do I think that our girls' night that we have on the calendar is like is more of a non-negotiable?
Right.
Or do I think of it as like, well, you know, I hope I can get there, right?
I know.
It's
I think there, and just speaking as a dude, I think there are a lot of men in that same thing. Yeah. Like, it's easier to sit on my couch and watch the game by myself. Yeah. And scroll off to the side rather than grab a bag of chips and go to a guy's house. Yeah. Right? And be together. It's like, it's a 15-minute drive. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, how many opportunities have I turned down? It is an inconvenience, but it's a minor inconvenience in the moment. Right. I'm usually glad I went anyway.
I'm usually glad I went.
It's actually an investment in the relationships that are paying off long term. Mm-hmm. I'm hardly ever, like, I'm saying this as an introvert. Yeah. You know, like, I'm, you know, in the evenings, it's just, it's hard to get motivated to do something else. Totally. But it's like, I hardly have ever regretted actually showing up.
That's so true. Yeah. That is so true. I mean, but you think about that, that's everything. Like, most of the time you're glad that you had the date night. You're glad you did the workout. Yeah. You're glad you did the game night with your kids. Like, it's just the transition into it and the intentionality. And I think if you think of things as optional, if you think that it's like, well, you know, I'll do it later, or it's not that big of a deal, or other people aren't doing it, then you won't do it. But it's like, no, this is just your life. Like, you need these things in your life. This is part of a rich life, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And so here's what I would say. Dudes, you got to get some friends. Like, the Surgeon General has written about the epidemic of loneliness and how it cuts more life off of end of life than smoking like a pack a day. That's how epidemic this whole thing is. So, dudes, you got to get a group of dudes that you hang with regularly. Yeah. And that you're there when it's inconvenient. And, you know, wives, I would say, like, no one likes the wife that is kind of like haranguing the husband. I want to give you permission as a husband to harangue your husband to get him into a group of friends. Yeah. Like, get him out a night a week, a night every other week with a group of guys. Like, hey, are you hanging out with the guys? Like, that is so important for your marriage, for him being around long term. Because a lot of us think that's just, it's one more thing that my husband's going to be off doing and less time with the family. And I'm saying, like, long term into your 70s and 80s, it's better for him to have a couple nights a month that he's hanging out with guys. Yeah. Like, I'm not talking about doing stupid stuff or anything. I'm just talking about, like, on a couch, some guy's basement, watching a movie, watching a game, having a meal. That's so, so important.
Yeah. Or like, hunting trips, the golf.
Yeah, absolutely.
Saturday morning golf. I mean, these are some things that I feel like I hear wives, they used to complain, my husband's always golfing. And now they're like, I can't get my husband to go.
He's always at home. Oh my gosh.
It's really an interesting shift that I've seen. And it's like, I feel like women are still tend to be more communal, but in certain periods of our life, especially when kids are young, we forget we don't have a lot of good relationships, and we come up for air and we bring those back. And I see online, like, women moving into an apartment complex together, or moving together with homes, their homes are nearby, and they have this little, like, they call it a compound or something. And it's they build that in. And so, when infrastructure isn't there, when society doesn't have this really clear pathway for you to just jump on, you still can make your own. Yeah. Right. You can still say, I'm going to take care of my body. I'm going to show up in these community places. Right. I'm going to offer what I have. I'm going to discover this creative thing that I love and do this thing and participate in community doing that thing. I'm excited for that stage of my life. Like, when I picture myself at 80, I picture myself like being a little bit eccentric and colorful and like doing some creative stuff and, being with people. I don't see myself being alone. And I think that's good that I have that picture in my head.
Yeah.
But it's like, what am I going to do now so that that's my reality?
That's right.
So
that's right.
yeah, that's a great rhetorical question for everybody to be considering.
Yeah. Good. Well, yeah. Let's chart a new path forward, because I think it's just it's for our own good. It's for our own health to do that. So
yes,
good.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm curious.
Yes.
What are you reading, watching, or listening to?
Well, my group of clinicians that I meet with, we're diving into this No Bad Parts book, and that's gonna be good to have like a little book club.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good.
Therapy book club. So I've done some work with that before, but I'm excited to dive in with them and mine out some wisdom. What about you?
I'm reading a book called Discipline Equals Freedom by Jocko Willenick.
Oh,
it's kind of like, hey, do the right thing. Grow up.
Oh my gosh.
Every once in a while I need a dose of like,
yes,
dude, make your bed and go to the gym. Come on. What are you doing?
Yes. Oh my gosh. No, Jocko Willenick, like everyone's like, it's so funny how people like want to be bossed around sometimes. There's just like a huge group of people that are like, tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like adulthood is so much like, is anyone going to tell me what to do?
Yeah.
I just really want someone to show up and tell me what to do. Even though when we're younger, we don't like it.
Yeah, right.
Anyway,
right.
So yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
That fits in really well with some of the other stuff that you've been doing lately.
Yeah.
So new question. What are you loving right now?
What am I loving? I am loving the mornings where we walk James to school.
Oh,
we have our fifth grader has about 6 weeks left of school. Our youngest, so no more elementary school after May, and so we started with the end in mind. We're like, hey, we have 6 more weeks left of this. It'd be good to get up and walk them to school. We get a walk in, and that's saving my butt. Or not saving my butt, but that's what I'm enjoying. But it's saving my butt.
Yeah,
too.
you're loving. Yeah, I know. I just thought we'd mix it up here.
Yeah.
That is so sweet, and like all the nostalgia happening live.
Yeah.
It's really intense. This is the time of year where I feel like a little old lady, and the thing that I love is birdsong. Like I'm always like, which one is that? And some of them sound tropical, and some of them are really obnoxious, and some of them are like, so their Merlin app that kind of identifies the different birds is really cool. And I don't know, just something about it is so like, I don't feel like I'm an auditory person that much, but there's certain things that for me it's very stimulating and calming and brings joy, like whimsical joy.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
That's what I'm loving right now.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So you're not like full on into birding. You're like birding adjacent.
I have 0 binoculars.
Yeah, there you go.
I have no books.
You have an app. And your app.
I have an app, but I don't even use it all the time. A lot of times I just like,
that's great.
That's a new one, and it's just like a little, like it feels like a little old lady whimsy, and me when I'm 80. Just kind of a preview.
That's good. Sounds good.
Yeah. Anyway, right. Well, I think that's all we got for this week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So thanks for joining us. Yes. Episode 21. Appreciate having you here. And let us know how else we could help in the comments.
Absolutely. And until next time.
This is the In the Middle podcast with Josh and Sarah Siders. Visit inthemiddlecoaching.co for other resources, courses, and helpful tools.